Welcome to our first off-season episode of The Cycle, the show where we cover 4 trending MLB topics in 20 minutes or less. Today, I'm joined by Josh, a.k.a. Kablumski. Josh, how are you doing today, my friend?
I'm doing good. How much longer do I got to wear this Royals hat, by the way?
Yeah, you know what? Forever, maybe. Unless you want to stop after this episode, in which case that's totally fine. Go back to your Tampa Bay Rays, where you feel more comfortable. But I appreciate you rocking it for one more episode.
Only for you, my dog. Only for you.
I appreciate it. Hey, Royals, 2026 World Series champions.
Oh my
With
God,
that,
here we go.
We've got some great offseason topics for you. We're going to talk a little bit about Arizona Fall League, what you may have missed there. We're talking the free agency. We're talking trades. And then we're going to wrap it up with a request, talking about some potential moves for the San Francisco Giants this offseason. Let's get right into it. Our first topic is something that isn't discussed enough, in my opinion, in baseball circles, and that is the Arizona Fall League, where every MLB team sends 7 prospects that they choose to play a short season around 30 games just to get another look at some of these guys. And with that wrapping up, we have the awards and some players we want to talk about. So the MVP of the Arizona Fall League was none other than Kevin McGonigal of the Detroit Tigers, joining names like Nolan Arenado, Chris Bryant, and Ronald Acuna as former players who have won that award. Currently, he's a number 2 overall prospect in the MLB, and some of the numbers he put up are absolutely bananas. Led the Arizona Fall League in extra base hits, total bases, second in home runs and RBIs. He had a 362 average and 1,200 OPS over that stretch. He projects at second base in the MLB, but that could be tricky given some moves that the Tigers have already made. I project them sliding him over to third base as he is expected to come up this season. Could be a huge impact player for the Tigers. James Hicks won the pitcher of the year. He's a primary sinker pitcher with a 6-pitch mix, doesn't throw very hard, tops out in the mid-90s, but he has elite control and a changeup with a 34% whiff rate. Of course, the Astros projected to lose Framber Valdez this offseason. He could be a big piece of that lineup. But the player I want to talk about the most today, sort of a connection to you, Josh, and this is how I'm going to lead into your segment. Emerson Valdez of the Pirates, their number 15 overall prospect, projects as an outfielder in the majors, due to come up in 2027. One offensive player of the year in the Fall League, joining some guys like Connor Griffin, Bubba Chandler, and Termarr Johnson, all projected to come up either this coming season or the next. So if the Pirates can do something that they've never done in my lifetime and just solidify that roster a little bit, we're looking at O'Neal Cruz, Brian Reynolds, Paul Skeens, Bubba Chandler, Termarr Johnson, Connor Griffin, and Emerson Valdez as a potential core that could do some real damage in the National League. Do you expect the Pirates to do anything at all this offseason relevant?
Well, that's a very, very good question, and kind of vague in a sense that they know what they got there. They know what Pittsburgh is bringing up and through the ranks. They know the value of their prospects. When you talk about Tamar, when you talk about Griffin, seeing those guys firsthand over here in Bradenton, those guys are generational, those talents. They understand what they got there. So I don't think they're going to make too many moves. Maybe more of a veteran presence to kind of hone these youngsters into play. But they know what they got here. There's their diamond to polish, if that makes sense. They need to know how to not mess up the diamond and scratch it up, bringing in players that could harm what they have here, but maybe somebody that can come here and polish them up, whether it be off the field or how to handle infield scenarios. So I think that's the only moves that the Pittsburgh Pirates are going to go to, in my opinion, this offseason.
I look at their rotation. They've had some injury issues, especially with Jared Jones last season. Why not go after a guy like John Means, who's a free agent? Hasn't had success in a few years, getting a little older, but he has been a part of some teams that had success. Why not take a big swing at a guy like Schwarber? Yeah. Just do anything you can, get one big piece to prove to the fan base and to prove to these young players that the team is willing to invest in you, in your future, instead of I mean, if you're a guy like Connor Griffin, who just won minor league player of the year in 2025, I'm looking at this organization. He's just a monster. And I'm looking at that, if I'm him, as, oh, I'm just staying here for a few years until I get flipped to the Yankees. I'm just staying here for a few years until I inevitably go sign with the Dodgers.
Right.
I would want to feel like the team is willing to put more talent around me. And I believe the Pirates haven't signed a free agent to a multi-year contract since the mid 2010s. Can't even remember who it was at this point. But it's just an organ. What was that? I'm sorry.
No, but they got a good nucleus over there. They got like you mentioned, the Cruz, the Chandlers, the Valdezes, other group, the Griffins. You're right. They got a good nucleus, good backbone for them to build off of. Any way they go with this, it could be beneficial. When you're talking about bringing in a big bat and whatnot, it could be beneficial. But the nucleus is there. The backbone of the team is there. The foundation, what they're trying to build for the future, is there. I just hope that the fans and the fan base understands that. Maybe not this year, but maybe next year. Not this year, coming up, and maybe the following year is when they make the move. But we got to be patient. The MLB is a tough game, a tough league to build an organization around. And I think that the fan base has to understand where they're coming from and know that the light at the end of the tunnel is there.
Yeah, I would love to see him have some success. And we can look at them later in the offseason as we continue to talk trades and free agency, see if they do make any moves. But with that, let's move on to some of those free agent signings. Obviously, so early in the offseason, we haven't seen any of the big dominoes fall yet, but we have seen some qualifying offers accepted. We have seen some extensions signed. Starting out with the qualifying offers, we have Gleyber Torres re-signing with the Tigers, Trent Grisham to the Yankees, Brandon Woodruff to the Brewers, Shota Imanaga to the Cubs, and as you were just saying off air, Bo Bichette did deny his qualifying offer. The ones that kind of leave me scratching my head, Gleyber Torres back to the Tigers. We just talked about Kevin McGonigal being ready to come to the majors, and you sign an an expensive qualifying offer to an infielder that's sort of holding in a spot. You've got a lot of guys in there, Zach McKinstry, Javi Baez, taking up some of those middle and corner infield spots. Trent Grisham to the Yankees. Yes, he had a breakout year. He had a career year in 2025, flexed his power in Yankee Stadium, though his power didn't take much of a fall off on the road. His splits power-wise are impressive coming out of Yankee Stadium, still hitting for power. But when you're talking about a team that has Aaron Judge, Jason Dominguez, now Trent Grisham back, you're trying to retain Cody Bellinger and trying to take a shot at Kyle Tucker. Trent Grisham just seems like a preemptive move for a team who knows they don't have a chance with some of the bigger bats, which in recent years has been a problem for the Yankees. Smart ones. Brandon Woodruff, getting up there in age, has struggled with injuries. However, Shota Imanaga, I think that was a must retain for the Cubs. I think if he leaves, we know Kyle Tucker's leaving. You talk about the Cubs taking a massive step back in that division. So keeping him in town gives them a chance to build that team up a little bit, take a shot at some other free agents because the Cubs are not hurting for money. Now, my favorite move, far and away, is the Josh Naylor extension. Mariners are trying to lock in a lot of those pieces that help them get within a game of the World Series. You have Julio, you have Cal Raleigh, you have J.P. Crawford. Julio Polanco is hitting free agency, but that core of pitching is there. And if you just keep some of the pieces around that, I think they're in a great position to build a little bit and take a real shot at winning the American League. So of all of those moves, and we can talk Bo Bichette a little bit as well, what were your favorites? What were your not favorites? And then we'll move into Bichette with our last minute.
Yeah, I got a few points. First of all, to answer your question, my favorite one was the Josh Naylor. I'm pretty sure I was the one that texted you right away when that happened. I was pumped for him, for that organization as well. He provides a little bit more of a spark plug. He's that player in the clubhouse that provides that positive energy, those good vibes. Very flashy in a sense, but quiet at the same time. So that's a good signing, a good extension for that organization. Who knows that their window is now, and they're trying to piggyback off of what they got in the bullpen and or in the pitching staff to uh, go with that staff. So a good move by them. I do want to point out on the Bo Bichette deal. You were talking about him denying that. I think that this is a very, very strategic move by him. He knows that he's towards the tail end of his career, so money is going to be playing a factor in this extension times. They want to tie him in for this probably his last contract and or big contract. So him and his agency have done this very strategically, and I applaud them for it. Especially when you have, an organization like the Red Sox that are hot on your tail, who knows that, A, they need that position filled that you play, and B, they have the money to back it up. So this is a win-win situation for both parties here, and I just applaud Bo Bichette for his confidence in himself, knowing the value of what he brings to the table. Real quick, though, I wanted to point out a few more things, though. The last segment we were talking about the Arizona Fall League. I wanted to point out too that we have to give a shout out to the Caribbean Fall Leagues, the Puerto Rico, the Dominican, the Mexican, and the Venezuelan Fall Leagues, because those leagues right there, not only are they for the prospects, but those are for guys that are towards the end of their career that are still trying to play. So they're trying to make a roster spot and or trying to get signed as well. So something to look forward for us as this offseason progresses. Who are the names in those particular fall leagues that are going to get signed due to their production in those fall leagues? Because these fall leagues are nothing to sneeze at. They're big time names in these leagues, and they're prepping for the WBC. So when the WBC comes into play and a factor as well, you're going to see a lot more players trying to make roster spots and or sign extensions due to how they play from the fall all the way through the WBC. So crucial timing for all these leagues that are happening right now, and especially leading into the WBC.
Absolutely. And we'll cover that in our next episode, actually.
Yeah.
Is some of those other leagues and some of the international players who are making the jump over. With that, let's move on to a few big trades that have happened fairly early in the offseason. Our third segment is covering a few big trades that have been made. Honestly, a few smart ones, and one that I sort of cringed at a little bit. I'm going to start with the bad. Taylor Ward traded to the Orioles in exchange for Grayson Rodriguez. I think the Orioles got absolutely robbed here. I think it's way too much to give up for a one-year rental of Taylor Ward. This ain't Mike Trout. This is Taylor Ward, a solid player, a player I have wanted the Royals to make a move at for a long time. And news is that the Royals reached out to the Angels, and they, just like they did to the Orioles, wanted way too much for him. Grayson Rodriguez obviously missed a lot of time recently, but in 23 and 24, he looked like a guy who could be a potential number 2 starter in a strong rotation. He is young. He's just turned 26, I believe a week and a half ago. He's coming off surgery to remove bone spurs in his shoulder that he says have been affecting him since he got to the major leagues. So with that, and with him being controlled through 2029, that is a massive piece you're getting back in exchange for a player who's on the decline and is a free agent after 2026. We saw Marcus Semien traded to the Mets in exchange for Brandon Nimmo, something I didn't see coming. What it looks like to me, with a new coaching staff coming into Texas after a disappointing offensive performance across the board in 2025, they're looking to cut ties with some of the old guard and bring in not just another outfielder, but someone who can change the culture there. Brandon Nimmo, obviously a player who has been in the postseason before, who has had success and is coming off his best year ever.
I like him.
I like him a lot. He can play every position in the outfield, of course. Like I said, a culture shift. They let Adolis Garcia walk. He will probably fill in that spot. And then another one that one of our other co-hosts, Caleb Williams, very excited about, Sonny Gray to the Boston Red Sox, likely to slot in
Huge.
as their number 2 starter, along with Cutter Crawford, Garrett Crochet, Brian Bayo, and then Patrick Sandoval coming back from Tommy John. That's 5 strong starters, giving them what I think could be one of the best rotations in the American League.
Right.
They trade away, and this is a real name, Dick Fitz, Brandon Clark, and a player to be named later. Obviously, our friend Dick Fitz went through so much growing up with that name. Wish the best for him. Hopefully, he fits in St. Louis. Of those, what is your favorite trade made thus far? The Ward, of course, we said the Simeon trade and the Sonny Gray trade.
Well, I think the Ward trade was more analytical than anything. I think you're absolutely right when you look at what was given up for him. I think you're spot on. It was a little bit too much. Now, are they looking at it from a sense of the trajectory of his career and the projection of his career? Yes. And if that is the case, then this might be a good trade in the long run. Will I think that happens that way? I don't think so. I think it falls a little bit short. My favorite trade so far, I hate to say this, is the Sonny Gray trade. I think that what Boston is trying to do on this offseason is impeccable. I think they're hitting all the holes that they need to do and to fulfill strategically. I say that because they're not just going out and getting an arm to fill in that rotation. They're getting a proven pitcher in Sonny Gray who was in the mix for the past couple of years in the Cy Young race and or having great seasons. And then not to mention like the last segment we mentioned before, when you talk about bringing in somebody in like a Bo Bichette, St. Pete alumni, that's going to be something that's going to be huge. I hate to see it as a Rays fan, but Boston's doing the right way. They know what they need to do to get to the next level. They're not scared to spend money, and they're getting the right players for the job. They're not just getting Joe Schmo and hoping that it fits their mold. They're getting somebody that's already proven and or fits their mold already. So look out for the Boston Red Sox to make more strategic moves throughout this offseason. But so far, that Sonny Gray trade is on the top.
Good. And I would probably agree there. Great points made, as always, Josh. Let's move into our last topic and wrap it up for today. Our last topic was given to us by a viewer. We have the San Francisco Giants and what they will do in a pivotal offseason to try to stay in the mix in that really, really difficult National League West. They have quite a few holes. Let's get that out of the way. They need an outfielder, they need bullpen help, and they need another starting pitcher behind Logan Webb and Robbie Ray. Any injuries to that rotation, it just would not look good. So I think the best case for them, and I have their best case scenario, would be to bring in either Ranger Suarez or Framber Valdez, to sign Harrison Bader or trade for Stephen Kwan, and then to sign Devin Williams. I think they could get him for a good deal coming off a disappointing season with the Yankees, or your boy, Pete Fairbanks.
That's what I was going to say.
Yeah. Or if some of those fell through, you've also got Tyler Rogers out there, a guy who has been with them before, a guy who is as reliable as they come as a setup man or in the sixth inning. And then Tatsuya Imai, I think, would be a good fit for them. You've got a situation here where you have the core of Logan Webb, Matt Chapman, Willie Adames, Rafael Devers, and Jung Hoo Lee, all locked down long term. Their next big guy coming up for free agency is Logan Webb in 2028. So start now. Open up a window for this team to be competitive for the next 3 or 4 years. And they don't have to hit all of those. If they could get Ranger Suarez and just fill in with somebody in the outfield, if they could bring in Pete Fairbanks, so many options this offseason in the pitching market, in the outfield market. They were 81-81 in 2025, despite all of those flaws, and their expected win-loss was 83-79. So they actually were the victims of some bad luck. They should have even had a better record. Build on that. Take a shot at the Dodgers, who are aging and may or may not build on that team in the offseason. Now,
Yeah.
what do you think of the Giants, and what do you think their best route would be? Where should they prioritize in free agency if they can only lock in one big free agent?
That's a good question. I think that pitching has to be addressed. At the end of the day, it comes down to pitching. You can use your farm system to fill in the other holes on the offensive side of the ball. But when you're talking about defensive pitching, is very crucial, especially down the stretch. That's why when you mentioned our boy Peak Fairbanks, I think that's a crucial player that they need to make a move for, especially before somebody else does. When you talk about the Cubs, the Dodgers, maybe even the Seattle trying to make a move for a guy like that. We have to, or excuse me, the Giants have to figure out how to lock somebody in at that type of level, as well as you mentioned as well, Valdez. When you're talking about bringing him in the picture as well, I don't think that they're going to be making too many moves in the offseason, John. To be honest with you, I think where they're going to make their bread and butter, and history kind of repeats itself, right? Right before trade deadline or going into the trade deadline, going into the break or something like that, they make a one or two good moves that kind of have people scratching their heads a little bit and or like, wow, this is the move that they needed. So I think that's their approach. I think that's what they're used to doing. But do they need to make a move? Yes. Do they need to address one of their biggest flaws, which is the back end of their pitching staff? Yes. Do I think it's going to be a Fairbanks? I hope so, because that is the big name that's out there right now that they can get for a good price. Now they're not going to go breaking the bank for a Fairbanks, but if they're going to get into a bidding war, then that's when the issue comes into play. So I think they lock in somebody like that now, and then they can ease into a Valdez or somebody in the outfield to kind of fill in those holes. But I think they got a strong enough farm system to kind of bring a few players up and or look into the Arizona Fall League, like you were mentioning, and see what they can project from there and kind of make their moves there. But they know that they need to make some moves, especially when you get the Dodgers next door doing what they do best. Why not pick apart a few of their pitchers? Why not make a move? And I forget his name, the new guy from Japan that's coming in. Why not make a move for somebody like that?
Munetaka Murakami. There's a lot of Japanese players coming over, and with the West Coast,
exactly.
they love
the West Coast. And a few of them already mentioned they're not playing for the Dodgers. They don't want nothing to do with the Dodgers. So why not go to the team that despises the Dodgers the most in San Fran? It's
right
still
down
on the
the
West
street.
Coast, right down the street. So things to look out for there. They spend money as well. They spend money strategically. So they need to make a move, and they will make a move. I just don't think they're going to make too many moves before the All-Star break. That's when they make their real big splash.
Yeah, and they had their heart broken by Juan Soto and Aaron Judge in the past, which is
Right.
why I projected them to not take a huge swing at Kyle Tucker, even though he would fit great in that
Oh
roster.
gosh, that'd be amazing.
Man, and he's going to end up with the Dodgers. With that, let's wrap it up for today. Josh, thank you for tuning or joining us. Thank you all for tuning in, and stay tuned for 2 episodes a month over the offseason as we continue to keep up with everything MLB. As always, make sure to subscribe, leave us a comment if there's anything you'd like us to discuss. And Josh, I'll let you take us home.
No, man. Thanks, man. I appreciate it. I'm just looking forward to this off season. It's going to be great. Guys, like, subscribe. Let us know about your WBC questions. That's going to be a big topic in the off season. One that I'm pumped for. So let us have it. Puerto Rico all the way, baby.
See you next time.